Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. The government has extended the deadline for mandatory e-invoicing for companies with annual sales between 1 million and 5 million ringgit by another year. Now, the requirement was due to kick in on January 1st, but it will now only take effect in 2027. So is this a sensible pause to help businesses adapt, or does it simply postpone the same problems down the road? Joining me on the show to discuss this further is Dr Veerinderjeet Singh, who is the Senior Advisor on Tax Policy at KPMG Malaysia. He's also the Vice Chair of the Global Tax Commission of the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris. Veerinder, it's good to have you back on the show. Lovely to talk to you again. Let's begin our conversation maybe with better understanding the rationale behind mandatory e-invoicing. I'm hoping that you can help us put this into context from the perspective of tax reform in Malaysia. Who is e-invoicing ultimately good for?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, Melissa. This particular thing about e-invoicing is not something unique to Malaysia. It started a few years back among some of the OECD countries starting to move up the digitization aspects of business and also in the end of the day of tax administration. So the idea is you have a mandatory digital system that will require businesses to issue what we call a structured or formatted electronic document as evidence of your commercial transaction, right, between the seller and the purchaser. Now, when you say formatted electronic document means you're given the various fields, what you should put in and so on, and that's the maximum number of fields and so on. Why was this seen as being necessary? Two reasons. One was for the normal aspect of digitization, using technology in everything that we do. So that I think Malaysia has clearly, the government has stated clearly they're moving in that phase of digitization, using technology, getting our traders to move into this digital world faster and hopefully quicker. The second aspect of this e-invoicing was also to improve tax administration efficiency, right? And indirectly, therefore, linked to that is to reduce revenue leakages. And I'll explain to you basically what that means. Now, basically, in Malaysia, we took a different path. In most countries around the world, you looked at having an electronic invoice done for purposes of GST or VAT, because there the tax invoice was a very important component, right? And so, therefore, they moved. The next step was to make it electronic invoicing. So everyone issues this invoice electronically, right? Now, Malaysia decided to get the Inland Revenue Board involved in electronic invoicing. The Inland Revenue Board deals with direct taxes. They don't deal with sales tax, service tax, GST, and so on, right? So we chose a different path. We chose to decide to widen the framework from GST or VAT to income tax in general. So we therefore took on a larger challenge. And in the long term, I know that many other countries are also going to move along the same path. They started only with GST or VAT invoices. They are slowly going to move, and some have already started moving to cover the rest of the income tax or the tax framework. So that is why the Inland Revenue Board was given the mandate to start this. And so next thing is, when you say tax administration efficiency, what do you mean? This is because in the Malaysian e-invoicing framework, the draft invoice that you prepare is going through a gateway, which is going to the Inland Revenue Board. The Inland Revenue Board sees all these invoices being issued and then gives you the go-ahead to issue this after validating it and having a QR code inserted. So therefore, the tax administration has therefore got a digital print of this invoice. So therefore, the authorities now will know the invoices that are being issued, and therefore they can tag the seller and the purchaser, and they can then say the seller in a year, for example, if you have all these invoices, you should have made sales of X amount. So they can tie it down, they can use it for purposes of tax auditing and so on. So that's what tax administration efficiency is about. In future, we'll find that tax audits will be electronic. Will no longer need to be coming to your business premises and surprise you and ask you for all the documentation. So that was the thing.
Right.
And also, maybe the other aspect is revenue leakages. Now, if you enforce electronic invoicing, it means every seller has to then start issuing electronic invoice, which is then in the mainframe of the Inner Revenue Board. Then you have a digital footprint. Then you, maybe in the past, not reporting this for income tax purposes, but because you have to move into the electronic invoice age, you will have now be reporting it.
Right.
You will now be perhaps called upon by the Inner Revenue Board to say, hey, by the way, you don't have a file registration, you haven't been paying, so maybe you should. So that's the other way of bringing people into the tax net.
I see. Okay, if I may just jump in here, I agree with you that there is a perception that e-invoicing will expose underreported income. So I'm wondering here whether the resistance or the pushback or the reluctance to adopt e-invoicing, is that about the increased tax visibility, or is it about technical difficulty? I'm wondering, are the compliance challenges legitimate or are they overstated? What do you think?
All right. I think the compliance challenges are not overstated. There are challenges because when you start doing a electronic invoicing system in the form in which the Inner Revenue prescribes, you also may have to change certain processes in your own organization, right, to tie in with that particular format and who will issue it and so on. So there is legitimate concerns over the administrative aspects, the restructuring of your workflow in your business, perhaps. So there are. But no, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't say that anyone is giving a pushback of the fact that with this invoice mechanism, the Inner Revenue Board now has everything on their file. That I think everybody will agree that I think we all agree that everybody should comply and pay the right and fair share of tax. So the main pushback is coming from the point of view of the fact that, remember, we've had a lot of changes in the last 2 to 3 years. And one of them was the SST widening. Then the other is e-invoicing. And the others are the non-tax aspects. For example, EPF for your non-Malaysian workers. Then you have minimum wage going up as well. So you have to therefore factor these things into your system, your accounting system, your administrative system, your operational system. So that has caused a lot of businesses to feel stressed out. Okay, so we get stressed out, but I think businesses overall will get stressed out because it means you got to spend some time and resources trying to fix these issues, right? Part of it is obviously ignorance, I must say. Many will start waiting for extensions, waiting for exemptions or waiting for postponement. But I think the majority that I know of are seriously interested in trying to get on board and do this correctly. So I think the main pushback has been because there have been so many changes occurring in the broader framework of compliance that we have requests.
Right. Okay. So now that the deadline has been extended, the compliance deadline has been extended again, talk to me about what needs to happen between now and next year, because I'm wondering whether delaying will actually help, and how do we make sure that there is meaningful help in that time period?
Yeah, I think delays will be welcomed because it means that you have a bit more time. And the main reason why this is welcomed is because there would not be penalties imposed, because in that 1 year you haven't moved towards e-invoicing, no penalties. And remember, this is not a total exemption. This is merely giving you a one more year. Instead of January 1st, 2026, you can now do it in January 1st, 2027. So the thing is, businesses cannot take their eye off the ball. It just means it gives you a bit more time. You could look, it doesn't take you 6 months to do electronic invoicing. It could be far shorter. You just have to sit down, focus on your resources, understand the guidelines. You may need to get some advisors to help you along, but you then need somebody in the technology field to sort of do the software field to sort of do the link ups. And that's sometimes where the challenges are. And remember, for very small businesses, ultimately, you can still use the portal that the Inner Revenue Board has created for businesses with smaller number of invoices. So I think the point is focus, establish your timelines, test it out, and get going. So I think this just gives you a breather in terms of time. And I think that's what will happen. Businesses welcome this because they are faced with challenges in terms of the other compliance aspects. So I must say that many people just say there's so much to do, but I think this extension gives you a breather. And that's good to know, but I think businesses cannot take their eye off the ball. Right. And you need to now plan it accordingly. So that's what we done.
That's excellent advice, Dr. Veerinderjeet. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I appreciate your time. Dr. Veerinderjeet Singh there from KPMG Malaysia, also the Global Tax Commission of International Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your time. We're going to come back on this topic, on Consider This, in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. Let's continue our discussion about e-invoicing. This after the Prime Minister has announced that mandatory e-invoicing for SMEs with annual turnover of up to 5 million ringgit, it's now been postponed to 2027. So joining me on the line is Dr Chin Chee Seong, who is the National President of the SME Association of Malaysia. Dr. Chin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. Maybe you can begin by helping us understand some of the main concerns that SMEs had about the implementation of mandatory e-invoicing.
Thank you for having me here. I think from the SME, from the early beginning when the announcement of e-invoicing, it was very confusing. You know, it's something new that many of the SMEs would not know what it is all about. But after a while, you know, more information, they got it. And I think most of them have learned to understand more about what e-invoicing is good for them and what can they do for them. But among that also, they have concern, of course. So the concern of first into their mind is how much it will cost me, right? How much I'm ready to embark into using the e-invoicing. Very, very complex, you know, how difficult for me to use it. And will it disrupt my operation? So these are the major concern, you know. And of course, the first one I mentioned is the cost, implementation cost, right? Even their assurance from LHDN that, you know, there will be no cost, you know, there will be very minimal, but that is not really true, right? So when they trying to assess their own, you know, some of them have counting system, so there were various kind of packaging coming in for them to pay. Some even charge on transaction base. So those are the confusion and also the concern, mainly for them to, you know, embark into this so-called e-invoicing journey.
Sorry,
and also, yeah.
Could I just interrupt and ask you to explain? So when you say that it's also about cost, and the IRB, the taxman has essentially said that actually it won't cost much. Why is there that discrepancy between what they think it will cost and what it actually costs?
So what they meant doesn't cost you is those so-called using their system. They might e-invoicing system from LHDN, right?
Okay.
And those mainly for very low transaction and go to manually key in. And it is sort of quite difficult for those transaction based. I mean the more transaction based company. If you have 100 invoice, how could you just key in? you know. And most of the SMEs that we have now, they already have their own system, their own accounting system, right? So the accounting system for them to integrate to direct link to the LHCM portal, because that is where you submit your report automatically. So when you involve a third party to provide solution to you, a plug-in system into your current accounting system, that costs money, right? And they're also subject to your size of your accounting system that you use. Whether you have a big accounting space or your transaction is more, or subject to the amount. The smaller company will pay less. The bigger company, they charge more. And some of the company go on transaction, right? Per transaction, they charge you maybe 1 cent or 2 cents or 10 cents, all kind of thing. So that is cost. So what LHDM means is that the cost that don't incur is you use that system and you manually key in, which I think is impractical for many of us.
Okay, so the real world implementation is actually different from what IRB or LHDN is saying. So when we think about the delay, now the government has granted another year for businesses to be ready, can you talk to me about what needs to be done meaningfully for SMEs to address some of their readiness challenges? How do we make sure that we're not just postponing the same problems a year later?
Yeah, I think the additional year does help SME, but there are a lot of them complaining. I was having some meeting yesterday with many of them say, I just implemented everything, start moving, and you tell me I don't have to do it, right? So many of them just commented it up. But anyway, there is at least an option for them, right? The option is that whether when they're doing not right, then the penalty-free period will come in. This will actually help them. But to us, for the association point of view, if those companies have already embarked and also, implement a system, we ask them to go through, just continue. You don't have to stop it. But I believe some of them will stop it because they feel that, for whatever reason, maybe manpower or they want to negotiate for the fees, again, for the charges. So they may stop it. But to me, if they already paid for it, just use it, right? Because eventually it will come. It's just a pause, right? I don't think government will put handbrake and say, oh, we cancel e-invoicing. No way they will do that. And looking at the size of the company have already gone into this system, using the system. I think it's more than 150,000 companies using it. In fact, maybe more. So this is where it's a pause that is not going to implement. So if you are able to, if the company are able to, already invested in it, just do it.
Right. And for the companies who haven't been able to get ready or they're facing challenges in getting ready for this, what concrete support would SMEs need? I'm thinking about grants or software subsidy or training capacity, simplified systems. I don't know. What do you think? What would it take to help the ones who are really facing some challenges, who are really saying, we don't know, we can't deal with this? How would you help?
I think that it's good that if government allowed them to have some grant. I believe there are grants available and also been given to some of them under the MDEC, digital grant, a matching grant of 5,000 to 5,000, a max of 10,000. Then I think a lot of them are using that facilities. But sad to say, they don't have enough allocation for coming year, right? If the government can allocate more for that purpose, then they will definitely a great help to the SMEs who are going to implement e-invoicing. Also help them to make an easy way for them to consider moving on, even if they are in the borderline. Let's say 5 million, maybe you already do 4.5 million, for instance. So maybe you should consider and go ahead with it if there's some facility or grant given to you. Other than that, is probably the training part. We have HRD fund that we can use, right? If we can use a fund to so-called get our staff to go for the training, right? Utilizing the fund, that would be great to help improve the cash flow of the company. So these are the things that government can really help, because their first few things I mentioned is that one is of course on the cost, the other one will be on the people. They want to make sure that their a person in charge will know exactly what to do so that they can fully comply with what is required by LHDN, so that there won't be penalties given to them.
All right. Do businesses that you speak to, your stakeholders, your members, do they see the benefits of e-invoicing, or is this another regulatory compliance that they feel like they have been forced upon them?
I think in the beginning, everybody was, taking a setback. Why I must implement this? Why don't you have a GST system that can cater for me? No need to go through all this trouble. But after a while, they do realize what this is going to happen to them if they don't continue using, especially for those companies who is dealing with the multinational, the big company.
Can you explain what consequences if they don't adopt this e-invoicing method?
Many of them they do not keep their record properly, especially the micro and the smaller SMEs. They probably print an invoice and collect invoice and they keep and file it, right? And when they start growing, and we never know, 1 year later, 2 years later, their business boom, and they are doing very well. And LHDM will come back to them and start audit on the tax that they are not paying properly. If you don't have a good records that care, you may be penalized because you're supposed to keep your record for the past 7 years. For instance. So that is where some of them do not realize, it's a small matter, you don't, but when they come the problem, then they will start complaining. So we encourage them to do that because by using e-invoicing, you don't have to worry. Even when your next generation come and take over, your kids will know where to find the data. Even if they don't have the government should have the data, and then there's no argument in terms of tax payment or whatsoever. So that will definitely help. In terms of sustainability, in terms of governance for the company. So this long-term thing is good. I fully support e-invoicing implementation. There's no doubt about it. But the question is, like what the government trying to do, they're giving you times, effort, which is good, which is why we are supporting on this.
Okay. So there's another year, there's been a year of reprieve, but if we look back at 2025, that was a challenging year for SMEs. And there's the fear is that 2026 might continue that trend of it being challenging. Well, what is your outlook for the year for SMEs, for businesses? Is there anything you're keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, you're right. 2025 is a very bad year for everybody, especially the SMEs, because we incur so many costs and so many announcements. Every announcement is no good for the SMEs community. So, but back to the outlook of 2026, I will be very cautiously optimistic, but with discipline as well, because to the fact that we believe and the government will start giving a lot of goodies, like what we have here from the announcement made by PM. Also, today there's another good announcement by our YB Stephen Sim, right? He's talking about having more fund to help the under the SAPP to allocate for the first time applicant. So this is where we get good news that the government are looking into. So I strongly believe that 2026 may not be that good, but will be better than 2025. Right? This is because I believe 2027 will be the election year, and government will start looking into how to help, and also not to lose their popularity among the business community. Because at the moment, if you ask any business community, they all are not happy with the implementation of, especially on the cost of doing business incurred for all the SMEs, especially SME community. Right. So this is where they hope that by this year, there's should be better, right? But on the other end, look at the global trade condition situation. I mean, a lot of issue happened last 2 weeks with Trump, invading Venezuela, and then all these things has come into a great concern over the economic outlook for the global. And but for us, we should start looking, and we hope that government will help us to look into ASEAN and using RCEP, the RCEP agreement to help us to deal with even businesses among us in Asia Pacific, including especially for China. So this is where I believe from there on, if we really targeted what they call help or even those subsidies or even incentives, or bring us to go abroad by the initiative of a certain various agency of the government, then 2026 will definitely a much better year. So we hope to grow from survivor not only to gradual recovery, but also to transform and make. And we have to depend on ourselves, put it that way, right? Even if there's nothing coming from the government.
Definitely. Hopefully 2026 will be a better business year for everyone. Dr. Chin, thank you so much for being on the show with me. Dr Chin Chee Seong, the President of the SME Association of Malaysia, wrapping up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.